Imagine this, you just had the perfect sales conversation with a prospect. You identified their budget, you knew who the decision maker was, you asked all the right questions, you qualified that this could be a customer for you. And you asked about the timing and it sounded like everything was gonna work out. Then the customer says, okay, send me a proposal. You send the proposal and then crickets. Has this happened to you before? Happens to me all the time. And what I found in my experience that there are some main reasons why most service professionals and sales professionals don't successfully convert their potential clients into actual clients. It's because they don't know how to follow up effectively. Hi, I'm Carlos Garcia and I'm a sales and communications coach. I'm also Exactly What to Say certified, and I want to teach you today how to effectively follow up so that you can convert more deals. You can know exactly what to say, when to say it, and how to say it in the moments that matter the most so that you can maximize on getting more business. Now you're probably wondering, why did this deal just stall? Why did the client ghost me? Well, the reason is because people do things for their reasons, not yours. It's not they didn't like you, it's probably because of something else. It could be that something else got in the way in the business, right? They might have lost a key team member, which diverted their attention to something else. Something in their personal life may have happened. Another priority stepped in. Whatever it is, don't overthink it. Don't try to think it was your fault. But what you want to do instead is control the controllables. So I want to teach you 3 key concepts of how to follow up effectively. And they are these things. The first is when to follow up, which is knowing what kind of cadence you want to follow so that you don't seem needy or pushy. And so following up too much, too frequently might turn off that potential customer, and taking too much of a long time might actually make the deal go cold. The second is, where is the best way for you to send this message? What Phil Jones likes to call it is the modality of the message, which is text message appropriate? Is a phone call appropriate? Is sending an email appropriate? Or is a direct message via the social media platform? There's so many ways that you can communicate with someone. Where's the right place to do this so you can build and keep momentum? And then the third is, how do you do it? Like, exactly what do you say in those specific moments and in those modalities so that you can influence that person to move more towards making that decision and starting to do business with you. You do it in a way where you're not pressuring, you're just influencing, you're helping them feel good about starting to move forward now and understanding what could be some of the risks of delaying action or what could be some of the consequences of not moving forward now. This also helps you keep better track of your time so that you can manage what customers you can help and where you can place your capacity accordingly so that you're not over-promising too many customers things that might not be realistic in terms of delivery and fulfillment of your products or services. All right, so let's talk about the when. Typically, right after you end the call, you should be committed to protect time to send that recap email. We have the magic of AI note takers and all these other tools for us to be able to condense this particular task into something that could be effective so you can help the decision maker focus on the information that's important for them in that very moment so they can make a decision. If you send that really good first 24 hours recap email with proposal and you make it simple, this is going to have your highest probability for that prospect to be able to make a decision right then and there. Now, again, there are a lot of competing priorities in today's life, and there could be something else that could be holding that person back from making a decision right then and there. So you want to give it some time for them to be able to review the proposal or review what it is that you sent to them in terms of information and what action they have to take. So that first message should be a recap of what you talked about, a proposal of exactly what you're going to do for them, along with the price. The price should have been communicated in that real-time conversation, and an agreement should have been already established before they actually go ahead and proceed. And then the third thing is you give them an easy way for them to get started. Make a deposit here, sign the agreement here. If you make that first email really easy on what happens next, then that's going to increase your probabilities of being able to fulfill or at least start the work for the client. Okay, so let's just say that first email was killer, but still the client did not do a thing. So my recommendation would be is you wait an actual week. I wouldn't follow up a day later or 2 days later. Did you get my email? Right? That's gonna feel a little bit too pushy, a little bit too needy. So instead, give it a week. You never know. There are other priorities, other things that they're going through. They're taking care of clients, they're taking care of team members, they're taking care of their business themselves. And they need some time to be able to dedicate, to read through the contract, to understand what was talked about, to evaluate their decisions. And a week, I feel, is a fair amount of time, so it doesn't feel like you are following up too soon. It's also fair enough for it not to feel like you're waiting too long. So in that week, my typical follow-up email is, I would say something to the lines of, hey, Mr. Customer, I know last week we spoke about blank and you mentioned to me that you were going to make a decision by this date. I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to reviewing the proposal yet. And so what I love about that is it's actually part of the exactly what to say methodology. These are words of influence that you can leverage. If you actually look at page 39, it's one of the magic words that this book has that helps us be able to frame the conversation in a way where you're not placing any judgment, blame, or pressure. Instead, you're demonstrating some empathy and understanding that they could have had a long week, something else could have gotten in the way, and what you're inviting them to do is, first, not to give you an excuse that they haven't gotten around to it because you've already said those words, but instead inviting them to explain to you what they've done, if they are going to make time for it. So this language is inviting the prospect to pay attention to what we're talking about and at least invite them to give you a response as to where are we going with this. You do this very politely and very professionally, and then at the end you ask a pretty neutral question. When would you like to revisit this conversation? Anything like that that could prompt the customer to be able to respond to you from that 7-day follow-up email. Now the next follow-up, I would typically just wait another week. If you haven't heard a response, then at this point you can go one of two directions. One, you could just again state the obvious, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, last time we met was 2 weeks ago. We discussed X, Y, and Z. I followed up with you last week, but I haven't heard from you. And you can either say, since I haven't heard from you, I'm guessing your priorities may have changed. Is that still the case? What you're saying here is you're actually taking away the opportunity now because you might have other clients that you need to serve and you don't want to be going around bothering this person too much. So you can go right away for the second follow-up, or you could just ask a very simple question. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, I know we met a couple of weeks ago to discuss your project with X, Y, or Z. Are you still interested in moving forward? You could just keep it even simpler if you wanted to, so that you're not putting pressure yet. So that's my second week follow-up email. The last email that I would send, and then at this point I would just close the loop, is the third follow-up email. And it would be the closing the loop email. I would literally say something in the subject line that would draw attention and curiosity to the reader. So the one that I really love, I took it from a website called themagicemail.com, which essentially is just your opportunity just to literally close the entire file. And what you're doing is, again, you're placing attention and value towards yourself, letting the prospect know that you're not going to be chasing them. Instead, if they want to work with you, they have to follow you. So what you say in this subject line is permission to close the file ? Now, what does this do? The client's going to be like, close the file. What does he mean? So they're going to open the email, and what you're going to say is, hey, Mr. Customer, I've been following up over the last few weeks. I know that you were very eager about working with X, Y, or Z project. Since then, we followed up 2 or 3 times and I haven't heard from you. Because of that, I'm assuming, or I'm guessing, your priorities have changed. Do I have your permission to close the file? Now, what does this do? You're taking away the opportunity for the client to work with you. And with this FOMO, there is this bias called loss aversion bias. And most people are willing to respond to something if they have FOMO, if they have a chance to lose something. So again, what you're doing here is you are engineering a specific set of behaviors and rules to engaging with you so that you're not presenting to the client that you're a low status, you're going to go chase after them, and you're going to be available whenever they need you. Instead, you're demonstrating that your time is valuable just like theirs is. So you're being respectful, you're being clear, you're being direct, and you're being structured. And this demonstrates that you are a high value professional. Now, when I use this sequence compared to any other sequence, for the most part, I end up bringing back a few deals because, again, I have some discipline and structure to my process. And at the end of the day, I'm respecting my own time as I am respecting my potential client's time. And I'm being just more clear about who's here to waste my time and who's here to do business. So this is how you execute the when. Now let's talk about the where. This is the modality. Do I email? Do I text? Do I do social media? Do I do a phone call? Email is going to help you with documentation and structure. Text message feels a little bit more warm and direct. A phone call might feel more urgent. So you want to be very careful not to be doing a lot of phone calls unless the preference of the potential customer is to speak by phone. If that's the original way in which you were communicating, it could make sense. Social media is a little bit more indirect with less pressure, a little bit less formal. But again, if your conversations started through a channel of social media, direct message, then that may be your main point of follow-up. If you're sending an email and it's not getting traction, then you want to change the modality. Try a text message, try a phone call. But again, don't break the cadence of following up at least once a week. You could, in essence, try to put something there in between with a different modality, but I'd be careful not to do it too much because then again, it might signal to the prospect that you're being desperate or you're trying to pressure them, and that could lure them away from the deal. Now let's talk about the how, which is like, what do you exactly say in those moments that matter the most? Well, I'd first start with before you end the phone call, the first sales call. If you don't have clear structure of what happens next, then the client is not going to expect for you to actually do any kind of follow-up. So the more that you set them up of predicting what will happen if A or B or C direction gets taken place, then the client will expect it. And you, by setting up that expectation, they don't feel like they're being bothered. I'll give you an example. So let's say you're finishing a call and everything went great. You say, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, thanks for the opportunity. Based on our conversation, it sounds like this option might be the best one for us to move forward. So what happens next? And that's the magic word that you want to use to frame what happens next. And again, in the book, Exactly What to Say, you go to page 82 and you'll find that the magic of positioning this language helps you set you up to create expectations around what kind of communication cadence there will be as a follow-up, what kind of proposal expectation or communication expectation they should receive from you. That way, when you actually activate this sequence, the client doesn't feel surprised, doesn't feel pressured. So what I typically say is what happens next is I'm going to send you an email in the next day or two recapping what we talked about, along with the service that we both discussed will probably be the best for us to move forward with. And in there, you're going to get a link for you to go ahead and review the proposal. If everything seems okay, go ahead and sign it. And from there, we'll schedule our first setup call. By the way, just a quick question. By when more or less will you be able to get a chance to review the proposal so that I get an idea as to when to expect to get started? Now the client might say, oh, I'll do it right away. Or, give me about a week. Whatever time frame that is, that's when your sequence starts, regardless of what day they say. And at that point say, hey, if I don't hear from you, would it be okay if I continue to check in with you? Because I can understand that sometimes business can get busy. Would that be all right? So now that you've gotten their permission to follow up, it shows that they are interested and you're being respectful, professional, and they appreciate that you are being considerate, that they are busy and things could get in the way, which still keeps you in the game. What I don't want you to use is just checking in, just following up, just circling back. I want you to eliminate language like, okay, let me know. You never leave the position to the client to decide. You are the one who is leading this conversation and this journey. And by taking leadership, you're helping the client make the decisions easier for them to work with you. There's a big difference between reacting and leading. This is why you want to make sure you have a strong follow-up sequence. To recap, when is knowing exactly the cadence you want to use to follow up effectively, not be too pushy or too needy. Where is understanding the modality. Are you going to text message, call, go through social media, or another channel that's going to help you move the needle? And the how is knowing exactly what to say in the messages in those moments in each follow-up sequence so that you're influencing the client without being too pushy or needy for them to say yes, or at least give you the window to be able to potentially do business. If you follow this sequence, you're gonna find yourself converting 1, 2, or 3 more deals throughout the quarter or the month. And those are the little things that add up to your process so that you can be effective, you can better serve your clients, you can better organize your calendar to know how to be equipped to serve your clients. Share in the comments below if you have any questions or if you've leveraged any of these techniques and how that's worked for you. Please like and subscribe. Appreciate you, and until next time.